Mad J's Barbecue. Mad J's. J's. All kinds of J's working over there. They have Nazareth. They have Blandon. MadJ'sBarbecue.com. That's going to have all of your information for everything that they're doing. They're doing nachos. They're doing pulled pork. They're doing brisket. They're smoking everything over there. They got some new items on the menu. If you go to MadJ'sBarbecue.com, that's going to have your hours for both locations. It's going to have your times. Please check those before you just show up. Or you can give them a call. All that information is on MadJ'sBarbecue.com. They got fantastic barbecue, really good people. They're doing pop-ups if you need them for pop-ups and you're a brewery and you need to get some food going over there. They do catering, weddings. They handle it all. It's Mad J's Barbecue, specializing in smoked barbecue and specialty items. MadJ'sBarbecue.com. Please check them out, and thank you for sponsoring the show. Giacomo's Italian Market. What an awesome relationship that has blossomed between Never Again Studio and Giacomo's Italian Market. We've been working with them with Studio Kitchen. We've been doing their Italian sausage and going to pop-ups with them. I love Sal. I love all the guys over there. It's always awesome collaborating. And you should go check them out. They got specialty Italian items. They're famous for the cheesesteak, the sausage. I can't even list everything because everything over there on that menu is fantastic. It's a home run. They are in Easton, PA, 700 Cattell Street. That's 700 Cattell Street in Easton, PA. They are over by College Hill. It's a dope area to check out. You need to go there. They got plenty of inside seating. They got all kinds of specialty Italian things off to the side, of pasta, vodka sauce. I usually just go there because I'm not making it as good as Sal. So I pick up my vodka sauce and, I say, what's up? We got some oils and all kinds of different things. But I can't say nothing but positive things over at Giacomo's. If you know them, you know them. If you don't know them, you're crazy and you need to get over there. That's 700 Cattell Street in Easton. That's Giacomo's Italian Market. Tell Sal what's up. At Sabrachi Jewelry Design, or Sabrachi. I don't even say his name right anymore because of Zach. He's a sponsor of Now We Go, and he's a sponsor of this show. He's a dual sponsor. He's a gemologist. He's a jeweler. He's specialized in CAD design, and he's also a branding specialist. You need anything at all done in those categories, Matt is the best motherfucker for that. It's D'Antonio and Klein Jewelers in Philadelphia, PA, and he's also going to be doing it soon to be in Lehigh Valley, PA. You can call or DM for appointments. He's in Philly on 726 Sanson Street, and you can follow him on social media at Sabrachi Jewelry Design. He's made pendants for finishers. We're working on stuff together. It's not just jewelry. We're working on pendants and all kinds of things. He's making rings. He can do anything that you need, from design to gems to jewelers. He is the real deal, and I'm excited. He's a childhood friend who grew a diamond business. He's a jeweler. We did a podcast with him. It's a cool story. Check him out. Sabrachi Jewelry Designs. Welcome back, man. It's been a while. It's been a while. You were on here so long ago. It was like early on podcasting. And you are doing quadruple the amount of work when you first came on here. Because I think when you were on, it was just kind of like getting going.
It was, I think, about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
If my Instagram serves me correctly.
But there was also COVID in between.
Yeah.
There. So you don't know if there's a disappearing time of COVID.
That's right. Yeah. Totally different world from the last time I was on here. It's definitely a different experience. And I've learned so much as a business owner and just as a craftsman, really.
Did you have to get through obviously you had to get through the pandemic.
Surprisingly enough, very little effect on the business from the pandemic. I was really concerned that people were going to be pulling orders and hoarding money.
Oh yeah, because you probably had stuff already going out.
Yeah, and actually the opposite thing happened. People were sitting home looking around their house going, I hate my house. They were forced indoors. So,
and we're still getting money.
Yeah. And they were getting the money from the government. So if anything,
let's go.
Like business picked up. And I said, let's do this. And, full steam ahead. And I'll figure it out later on. And I did.
Because you now have a bigger shop. Was the new shop? Did you have that already?
Yeah, I was about a year into that shop last time I was on. Almost 3 years since we moved into that house. And I think I built the shop in October, roughly, end of October. Halloween is, I think, when the concrete went in. So coming up on 3 years from the new space. And I love it. It's purpose built for me. It's exactly what I wanted. It's never big enough, but
No.
but you do what you can.
It's funny how that is.
I'll get 3 or 4 projects in there at a time and go, oh my God, I need more space. And
Yeah.
there's literally nowhere else for me to go. So
Yeah.
I got to take with what you got, and I'm doing fine.
Do you think that you'll eventually look for bigger space? Because I knew everywhere we went, except for the new spot, when we were in Bethlehem, and I knew I was like, oh, we'll be leaving here, and everyone's like, whoa. Then we got here. Well, no, then we did 2 others. Then when I got here, I said to Shivey, I'm like, this will do for now, but we're going to leave. And he's like, whoa. But like when you can envision stuff and you see down the road and you understand how far you want to go with something, plus you're probably like me where you like space to create and you don't like feeling small, especially when you don't have to. Like the next spot I'm going into, that's like a 10-year thing. Like I know it's going to take a while before I outgrow it. Do you think...
Yeah.
Do you know that you're going to be there for a while yet, or do you you're like, I could add another garage?
I maximized the square footage I'm allowed on that property.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Literally, I had to get a zoning variance just to put this shop in. So I'm very limited where I'm at. There's so much money invested in my shop.
Yeah.
So and I have it like 98% set up exactly the way I want. So it would be hard to start over.
Yeah.
I think I can. The way I've morphed the business since the last time we spoke. I'm golden with space. I don't need any extra room.
What did you do in the morphing?
Now instead of just doing custom furniture, I'm doing home interiors as well.
Yeah.
So I call it like a room makeover or facelift. I can go into a room. I'm going to give you a custom built-in, maybe a new coffee table, a new dining table, whatever you need. I'll paint the walls. I'll do a wall feature if you want a cool ceiling.
Did that come by you doing projects like that for others, or did you see an avenue to make it a little bit easier?
I'd have customers ask me, "Hey, do you paint?" And I'm like, no, I'm by myself. I don't have time to paint. Nobody likes to paint.
Nope.
I don't mind painting. So I'd have customers. I'm like, oh, sure, I'll paint for this project because it's a little bit more involved. And now I go, well, why wouldn't I just paint?
Yeah.
What's I have myself and another guy, so we have the ability to do it. Typically,
and it's not like you're really painting a house. You're probably primarily doing a room.
And I limit, the interior space is 100%. So, I'm able to pick and choose what I want to do and then stay in my wheelhouse. That's the key. I think anytime I get too far outside of my core competency, that's when issues arise.
Yeah.
So if I can stay in my lane, this room is reasonable, I can paint it. If it's too big, I put a big price tag on it. And then if the customers go for it, then cool. If not, let them farm it out to another painter. And I'll probably beat like a traditional painter's pricing anyway. So
yeah, was it hard for you to start kind of finding a value in what you were doing and to pricing it? And I always found that was the hardest for me. And even now we're like, it's like you almost force yourself to do it because you don't have time. We're like, I have people wanting to record here and I'm very upfront now. Like we are way past me recording for free because I don't know. Like I don't have any time. So like when you don't have time, that's when you, like my friend would always be like, time's worth money. You put a price tag on it and you don't understand that until you eventually get to a point where it's like, no, like I can't lose that time and you have to do it. So how was your structuring? Like, was it just kind of hit or miss with the clients you had, or, did you kind of figure out what you knew they would go for? Or is it a little bit different with everybody?
Yeah, it's a little bit different with everybody. And coming up, definitely the early years, you're just scraping to get work. So if someone says, I would like to buy something, you're going, this is great. I'll make it for you for what I think it should be, what should it cost, or what I would pay for it. Eventually you get to a point where that's not real, and then you kind of have to figure out.
It's usually on a drive home from somewhere, and you're like, I think I made $8.
Yeah. I've had multiple projects over the years where you're like, oh, I came a little short on that. I didn't put enough hours in it.
Yeah.
Didn't give myself a good rate. And then you're like, this is a business. I'm here to make money.
It's hard to turn
that
switch
as give
over.
somebody what they want.
Yeah.
So I'm slowly ratcheting it up, getting the hang of. I have spreadsheets for everything, so I can go back and double check when a project's over.
What do you use for all that kind of stuff, like Excel and all that?
Yeah, I'm still doing it old school. I mean, Google offers sheets. And
I got to start getting into it. I'm doing old school. I'm doing everything on paper. All that stuff I told you about today is on a piece of paper.
No, it's all.
Jerry yells
it's
at
all
me.
Free too.
Yeah, Jerry yells at me. He's like, "What are you doing?
Yeah.
What do you do? Organize it."
Yeah. So I learned spreadsheets through the Microsoft Suite.
Yeah.
In all my other jobs. So I love making spreadsheets. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to that kind of thing.
I need to get it. I need to turn into a nerd with that.
Yeah, it's because numbers don't lie. That's the one thing at the end of the day. Everything can change this way or that way, but numbers don't lie. So if you get to the end of a project and you weren't as profitable as you want, Where did I go wrong? What could I have done differently? And really in small business, that's all that matters at the end of the day. Obviously, customer being happy, that's number one. Number two, you got to make money. Otherwise, you're not going to be in business too long.
It's just a passion project.
Yeah, exactly. And passion projects are fun for a little while, but when you're trying to put food on the table for your family and contribute,
and passion projects, you kind of end up hating them because you're burning yourself out, and then eventually the nostalgia of doing work like that is gone, and then now you're just working on other people's time, and then like it just really starts adding up, and it's either shit or get off the pot. And then when you finally do, it's like, fuck, like I gotta be more responsible with this, and I have to put a price tag on this, and what is my worth? And then you just start figuring it out. And then what's funny is, like, I used to always be like nervous or afraid of somebody questioning what I would say, but they're approaching me to pay me. No one's really expecting free stuff. So it's like I just started being like, yeah, man, it's this much to walk through the door, and we're clear on that. This conversation can go further. And like the other day I had the call, and they were like, yeah, of course. And I'm just like, all right then. Yeah.
You feel so official,
that's
right?
what we do here. But it felt good because I was like, man, I've done that so many times for free. I've done so many things where it wasn't making money. And like and there's other avenues with businesses, which I'm sure you know from doing that, is where you can make money doing other stuff. And if I can rent the studio out, why wouldn't I? Yeah. Especially if I could have somebody else running it too.
Exactly.
Or if somebody rents it out to use it and they know how to run it. Like, there's always avenues to make cash, and you learn that by like growing a small business.
Yeah, exactly. You got to go through those hard times for the good times to come. And then, eventually you hit your stride and you feel like, okay, now I'm good. I know what my monetary value is, and let's push forward and let's do the best work we can do and optimize the output for the customers. So
how was the change when you switched over to kind of the new model of doing like the interior stuff? Because you're a really good follow on Instagram, because you break down the project sometime of what's going on, and then other times it's just really good pictures of really cool projects that are going on, and you do have a very unique own style to what you're doing. It's not anything kind of similar. It's your own look. But like when I started seeing you start transforming people's living rooms and things around, I was like, this is really cool, because it almost started when you were redoing your one room. That was, what was it, the Red Barn or something on the inside? That's
not mine. That's a customer's house.
Which one was that?
That was a customer local here. They're near the Borough Park, and that was the customer bought their parents' home, so their childhood home. They've been living there for years, and they were just ready for a change. So they had this giant living room that they called the Red Room. Everything was red.
Yeah. It was all red, and it was like that picnic table red.
Yeah, it was like that barn red. So it was a beautiful color and style back in the day when it was built, and they had some awesome built-in bar and built-in cabinets and these walkways up top. And what we did is we went in there and we gutted everything that wasn't necessary. They painted the entire room white. Another crew came in and installed some beautiful tile work, and then I did the final carpentry touches, added a little dry bar for them, did a couple little accents, and then I wrapped the beams that were in the room with some old barn wood. Yeah. And the whole project has just transformed that space, and it's just gorgeous now.
That's got to be,
and it's modern too.
And it's got to be so much different than just kind of delivering something.
Yeah, there is. It's really nice working in the shop and just building something and delivering a table to someone's house. I'm in a climate controlled area. I have all my equipment with me. It makes life a lot easier. But doing these custom interiors and the built-ins, there's a little bit more that the customer gets out of it. And I think the end result works out better for everybody. That way I'm not just dropping a piece of furniture off and saying, good luck, you should really hire a painter to paint these walls. Because they're a little dated. So now that we're doing everything as a package,
I like that.
Yeah, I've been getting good feedback from the customers. They seem happy with it. So
you obviously have a style about what you do. So you could, when you're giving them a piece of furniture, you're almost like, hey, you know what would else work with this? Is like you might as well not have one really awesome thing in the middle of your room and nothing else goes with it, because some people aren't. It took me a while to realize that some people don't think the way I think, or they don't think the way you think. So like some people can't envision stuff, which is crazy it's so foreign to me that no one would be able to do that, but there's a lot of people who can. So if somebody can't put a room together and you come in and you're like, well, you would do this, paint it that color, you can essentially like really put an awesome room together that's your whole touch, not just here's a coffee table.
Yeah, exactly. So, I've had customers who go, I think we're going to buy a new couch, and that's how it starts.
Yeah.
And then before you know it, we've dropped a large sum of money, and they have a whole new space, and now their living room's good for another 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
And they don't have to worry about, I don't know, this couch doesn't match anything, or we're sticking with this furniture that we hate for years. It's uncomfortable. And I've spent enough time, buying furniture for my own homes that I can make suggestions too. If you're going to buy a couch or something, maybe you want a cuddler. Do you and your wife sit next to each other? We would like this. It's when you buy a sectional, it's a different option for like an armchair. Or do you play video games? A chaise is really nice for you to lay on the corner of the couch, put your feet up. Just tying some of those accents in and getting to know the customer a little better, really helps that you can really dial in 100%.
And it makes it way more intimate for them.
Yeah.
So they kind of feel like they're not just getting the price tag in the end of it. It's actually, you're going through an experience of having somebody recreate something that's complete. It's not. This is really cool that you did this, because now it's not just a custom table; it's a custom environment.
And I have a good rapport with people. I think I'm easy to get along with. So I sit down with my customers, and I'm not just.
And you're genuinely excited. Like when we talked about doing the sign, like you were like,
I get
this is going to be awesome here. So like I'm used to that because that's how I get. So it's like, well, awesome. He's into the project. And if somebody's into the project, you're going to get a way better result than, I didn't get to it yet.
Yeah, especially with your space too. I love seeing a blank canvas. And
it's like, so much fun.
So much potential here. Yeah, it's a little overwhelming from time to time.
But it's also our first major project like that. Like I'm excited to get through it because what we were talking about before this, now it's like, I got that under my belt. And that's such a large undertaking to get under your belt, as nothing would really seem overwhelming as opening a coffee shop with a full kitchen and a TV studio.
Saying it that way, it almost sounds kind of strange, but
it's totally insane. I'll explain it to people, and I'm like, I'll get it done.
Yeah, I mean, I can see your vision. Yeah, you're obviously, I see you have the hustle, and I appreciate the hustle.
I see
what you do.
It's
here.
not easy.
It's not, and not everybody's cut out for it.
Nope.
I'm a hustler too. When it comes down to it, you gotta drive.
You like grinding.
Yeah.
You like grinding. You like working, and that's all. I don't know if it's from a generation of growing up in a time where, the workforce rubbed off on me correctly or rubbed off on you. And then there's a lot that I don't understand as to why I do the things I do, but I meet a shit ton of people that do it, like Zach over at 10th Planet.
Yep.
People like that. And what's cool is I now rub elbows with them all the time. And like, I'm always bringing people in here who are hustling, because 90% of the people that come on are building something from nothing, and you have to. And then the more I'm around those people, I feel less weird about it. But I don't know why. That's just my father. I think it was just a blue collar, just grind. I always wanted to work. When I didn't know what work meant, I remember being at factories and just being like, I just want to work. Like you guys are holding me back from working. Like I will work more. Like I just need to work. And it would always be like, there was always miscomprehension on that. Like I wasn't serious, but like I work hard every goddamn day. It's to a point now where like it's paying off, and I didn't know if it would ever pay off. And I've been working since I was 28, nonstop, balls to the wall. And like, it's nice to look back on it. I don't regret anything, and it feels good to have worked that hard, because I know people don't work that hard.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I'm sure when you drive away from a job, it's like, man, that feels good. There's a lot of people that wouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
And it just separates you, and there's just those moments where it's like, yep, that was awesome.
Yeah, I had a similar upbringing. Both my parents worked 2 jobs.
Yeah.
Growing up, we didn't have a ton of money, so we made do with what you had.
Yeah.
My dad he'd teach all day, and then when he'd get done, he'd go mow lawns, and he'd bring me along with him and say, he'd give me the old school, looked like a big scissors.
Yes.
And say, edge. Instead of, he didn't own a weed whacker, couldn't afford one. So he said, you edge this area out. I was probably 6 years old, playing G.I. Joes. And he's like, all right, quit playing with your toys, go edge this out. And then you just learn a work ethic. So then you just drive and your head down and push forward, I think now I'm getting to a point though where I'm you got to pop your head up every now and again, take a breath of air.
Oh yeah.
And figure out, make sure you're still going in the same direction that you want to go.
Yeah, it's hard.
And you don't get bogged down.
It was hard with me making the decision to do that because I had to stop everything I'm doing with this. Like, there's things that I can do where, the podcast I really enjoy doing, and I enjoy interviewing and talking to people. So, like, but there's things that I had to stop putting pressure on, like apparel, and and then I set it up where I can get apparel for people, but like I'm not a part of that anymore because that time I needed to do here. So I really needed to come up above air and be like, hey, look, if you're going to do this, you need to start pumping your brakes now, because if you don't, you're just going to hit a fucking wall. And pretty much the last year has just been me just kind of being like, oof, because it's a different grind opening something up than it is. Like I have to stop in order to grind harder than I ever was able to. Yep. But you have to initially stop and be like, okay, like what are we gonna do? How are we gonna set this up? What are these decisions gonna be? Then you can go back under.
Yeah, you only have so much time too, so you really got to be able to make sure you're using your time effectively, and you can't spread yourself too thin, because then at the end of the day you just get burned out and you don't know if you're coming or going.
No, and I've done that multiple times where now I can kind of sense it, and I'll be like, you either need to go on a long hike, you either need to take the day off, or like, I kind of got a good system now where it's like, I'll start ramping up Tuesday and then work really hard, start slowing down Thursday, Friday, ease into it. Saturday's my kind of day to hang out, but it's only in the evening. Sunday, I don't talk to anybody. Monday, slowly get back going. Like, I found a nice way to kind of
got your rhythm.
Yeah. It's different allowing yourself to be able to do that. And for a while I couldn't, because I just thought I had to keep going and going and going, and I would always be working, and then it's like you will burn out.
Yep, 100%.
What was it like for you to start doing some different things that you offered? Because in the beginning you were kind of just doing like not simpler things, but I saw you was it Keaton Sealing?
Mm-hmm.
So like when you start getting into projects like that, then are you like, cool, we're going to start offering that? Was that the first time you did a ceiling like that?
Yeah, that was a Weber wallboard project, and actually after using their material, I'm like, this is kind of neat. I can incorporate this into furniture. So that particular one was their wheat, which is like a medium brown color. They offer it in white, and I've used that white product in a couple of different farmhouse pieces that I've made after.
So it's a product that's used specific for...
Yeah, you can get it at Home Depot sells it, and it's 4 inches wide, 4 feet long, random thickness, and it's distressed on both sides.
Yeah.
And you're able to use it for a couple different walls or ceiling features, and then now furniture. It's a really great product, and depending on what the look, if you're looking for like a farmhouse industrial look, it's a really cool product to be able to use that for it. And since that project, I've done I think 3 or 4 other ceilings in similar fashion.
Well, when I saw it on your social media, I didn't realize it was Keaton's house, and then I know what Keaton's house looked like before he sold it, and I was like, that probably just tied that whole damn room together.
Yeah.
But then I was like, man, I wonder if he's going to start offering. It's cool when I start seeing you or a customer kind of take you somewhere where either you haven't posted or like you just start kind of working into stuff, and then seeing other projects come down the road and be like, I bet you they kind of pulled that from what he was doing. And it's cool when you start seeing the projects overlap and almost customers using other customers as catalogs.
Yeah, Keaton's really good with that too. He has that artistic eye.
Yeah, are you doing anything on his new place?
Yeah, I did a bunch of stuff there. I'm working on a really cool wall in his basement right now with a hidden door.
Yeah.
So like, he's got the eye, and he's got the look, and he'll text me late night, hey, what do you think of this, man? And I'm like, I can make that happen. I can do that. So let's figure it out.
They're the fun customers.
Yeah. He's a real good guy. So I love working on his places. And also, he's moved into a childhood home too that it belonged to his family.
Grandfather's, right?
His grandfather's place. So it's really cool to keep that in the family and to update it so that a whole nother generation can enjoy it for years to come.
Yeah, when it was his girlfriend at the time, when she came on, they were just talking about that. Mm-hmm. And I was just laughing because she was like, he's going to want to do all this stuff. And I'm like, you have no clue what he's going to take you through there. And then immediately it was just boom, boom, boom. But like you said, it's fun watching him get through projects and do different stuff. It's like sometimes when I know the clients that you're working with, I'm like, this will be exciting because they usually have an eye to do cool stuff.
Yeah, it's all about the collaboration with the customer. Some customers, you walk in and they have a clear goal. I've seen these pictures on Pinterest. Here's 27 different ideas. Can you incorporate these together? Sure, we can. Let's make it happen. There's other ones where you walk in, I don't know what we want. We want something.
Yeah.
And then I go, oh, man, all right.
How do you set that up so that they kind of will have a little bit of their ducks in a row?
Typically what I do, there's a couple different ways to do it. If I'm just adding one piece to a room, I'll look around the room at their other furniture and try to tie something into their existing decor.
Yeah.
If we're redoing an entire room, that's a little more complicated. I need some feedback from them to kind of push me in a direction.
Like, where are you starting with the room?
Yeah, or like, what's your color palette? What's your style? What are you looking for? Because if it's a blank canvas, there's too many options, and I could go down a rabbit hole designing something, and I've done this in the past.
Yeah.
Design something really cool, show it to them, and they go, well, that's not quite what I was thinking. And they go, okay, well.
And then you got hours of drawing.
Yeah, and my drawing's all 3D renderings, but it still takes a fair amount of time.
Yeah.
So the ideal, if I'm down there designing, I do that in the evening, so it's taken away from my family time. So if I have a vision going into something, it saves me a lot of time and frustration. But at the end of the day, my goal is to make the customer 100% happy. 90% doesn't cut it. So I don't want to deliver something that they don't want, so that the fact that they can see what I'm going to give them on the computer before I start building it really makes the job a lot better, because they're not surprised at the end and going, well, I would have changed this or done this differently. They know exactly what they're going to get. They know the price up front.
It's pretty cool when you get into the 3D aspects to it. They're walking. I've moved the studio. It's never been a build, and it's exciting because we get to do things like put in ceiling with acoustics. Like the drop ceiling is for audio, and then like
purpose built.
Yeah, and then like knowing that I want 3 studios, so we're going to be putting lighting racks over each section, so then it's really easy to just move lights around. And then like when we went and met Kurt, he started showing us the 3D render where like he's taking you through the coffee shop, and I'm like, man, this is fucking cool, because like it's giving you the feeling of being there before it's the next step. That's important, I feel like.
Yeah, definitely, and especially if people don't have if they can't take a 2D drawing and envision it 100%, the 3D renderings make everything so much easier.
Because even like when it comes down to like the furniture, like we want like a European vibe, so those tables are different. They're round, they're not square, which I didn't know there was a difference, but I'm learning a lot with this. So then when I started seeing the round tables with the round seats, and then only doing 2 seats per table, and not doing it where 9 people can sit somewhere, or like setting it up so it's more like, oh, well, you can connect these tables together. Like we're really trying to do something totally not that's around here.
It's more conversational. It's a one-on-one.
Yeah.
2 people sitting together having coffee.
Yeah.
Versus a bunch of people getting together having beers. It's a different vibe.
Yeah. And then what was also cool is like, like a lot of people are involved in the project, so like they're redoing the front entrance, and that was hard to picture because I pictured it just being blown out and there was one door, but that's not how it's going to be done, where there's actually going to be 2 sets of stairs, and then I could see the sign, and then I was like, oh, this is going to be really cool. And then like you get excited, it's not waiting to see if it's going to turn out the way it's going to. There's like a huge insurance that like this is going to look very similar to like adding the awning to it. Like it's just...
And seeing that look and then going...
Yeah, it's got to be cool to walk the customers through that part and be like, hey, like... And then plus it's got to be easier on you to be like, okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you do submit a design and they go, whoa, that's not what I'm thinking.
We didn't want pentagrams.
I don't typically offer that, but okay. But yeah, I'd much rather catch it 2 hours into a design on the computer versus 40 hours into a build. And they go, oh, wait a second.
Have you had that early on?
One of my first projects I did for a customer, I built a giant bar for them in their basement. Awesome piece, great project. I met with the husband and the wife independently, typically. And the husband's like, I want an Irish pub, dark wood, real masculine. And then the wife, I talked to her on the side, all white, give me like ultra chic modern. And I'm like, well, I've already bought materials. Like we can't. I'm like, okay, now I'll figure it out. And then I was able to like pivot during the build to be able to give them something that met both their needs.
Yeah.
But yeah, It's very typical. You'll have a husband and wife disagree.
Yes.
And you'll have one whispering. The husband leaves the room and the wife goes, "Okay, we're not going to do it then."
And then that puts you in a weird position.
And I go, "Hey, man, you guys figure it out on your own. I'm happy to do it however you guys want. I just want you both to be happy." And typically, I can work out enough that they both get a little bit of what they're wanting, and then at the end of the day, everybody's happy because it looks good the way it's supposed to look. And as the designer builder, my goal is to take their vision and make it better than what they thought they wanted. Really go above and beyond, and I add my own little twist to it too, to what I know is cool and what's on trend for right now and what's going to be popular, going forward.
Yeah. What was it like for you to have to hire somebody?
That's a process.
Because when you were here, you were still doing it solo, and then there was a couple times where we ran into each other and you came to pop-ups or something, and we'd always catch up, and then you're like, yeah, man, like I had to hire people. And then I saw you put a post out maybe looking to hire someone too, and I was like, hell yeah, because it's always cool when like I bring people on and then I get to watch, because usually when everybody comes on, they're either at the beginning or the middle or at some version of their business, so you still can watch it grow. But to watch it grow to a point where you are now have employees, it's got to be crazy.
Yeah, it's definitely.
Did you think you would ever get to an employee part?
Initially, I was thinking, no, I can do it all myself. I got
or
this.
Just keep it to a point where you make enough money by yourself and you're happy.
Yeah, so you reach a point where at least I did, where there's only so much time to do stuff, and I didn't have time to do the meticulous sanding. Hours of sanding go into a slab, into a table. So typically that's what I brought guys on for initially, was just, they're just going to sand. And eventually, you can't really time that. So you have to teach people more. I hired 2 guys part-time at the end of last year. Basically,
were they people you knew or that they answered an ad?
No, I put a Facebook ad out and only got 1 or 2 people that responded. I use Indeed. I got a bunch of candidates through there, and they have a really nice process for small businesses. I only pay for applications that are on point for what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
So I had the ability to immediately say, nope, not a good application, and just weed people out. Anybody that I call for an interview, then I pay for their application. So I've interviewed.
That's not a bad process.
It's not a bad gig.
Yeah.
It still costs you a couple $100 every time you interview, but I found that you get good quality candidates that way. And I've used Indeed in the past for looking for jobs, so you can trust them. So I brought on 2 guys. One of them didn't work out, and pretty early on if it's going to work out or not. And then I brought on another as the third man position before. That didn't work out. I'm happy with the 2-man team, but with the right third guy, sky's the limit. We could do a lot. So I'm always open-minded. If someone's got a resume they want to send me, send it to my okenironworks@gmail.com or hit DM me on Facebook or Instagram. Any good craftsman out there, carpenter, metal fabricator, that sees what I do and thinks they can add something to the team, I'm always interested to talk to people.
It's always cool to watch my friends' businesses grow like that. And even when Jandrew had to start getting employees and stuff, it's cool when you start like, man, that's crazy that you have an employee now. And then like now you're getting like more work done and building the business, and it's coming to a point where you got to just grow.
Yeah, it definitely changes things, because it's not just me building furniture anymore. Now I'm designing for somebody else to build something, and I have to make sure that the quality is still at my level. And I've been doing this 25 plus years, building things. So not everybody can do that. Not everybody can do it at my level. So it's a matter of finding the right fit, personality wise, because I got to spend 40 plus hours a week with this person.
Yeah.
As well as they have to be good at, finishing work and welding or
Are they primarily
work.
just hang in the shop and do the work there? Or do you take
no,
them on
I bring
site?
them on site with me.
Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going someplace, they're typically going with me. I do. The guy I have now, typically I get him set up. If there's something I need to run to go see a client or go pick up materials, he stays in the shop, and I have him doing X number of activities when I'm gone. But, you got to be a self-starter. You got to be able to be on time for work, and that's not always easy for people. But,
No.
my guy now is good. I got him kind of trained up. He knows what I want. If I say we got to load the van for this project, he knows, okay, this is what we're going to load up, and and I can pretty much say, this slab needs to become a table. What are we going to do? And he knows the steps into it now. So after, I guess we're 10 months into the relationship. I mean, there a lot goes into it. You spend a lot of time with somebody, and there's a lot of training involved, and it's all about them getting the hang of it and being able to reproduce what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and then on top of it, you have to hope that it is the right decision and you are making the right pick with somebody that you're choosing to stay with you for a long period of time like that.
Yeah, it's not easy. In a 1 hour interview, you think you know somebody and you try to get an idea of their personality, but 2 weeks into them working with you, you find out for better or for worse.
Yeah, because you could always hit it off with somebody and then they can tell you a lot, and then when you get into the thick of it, kitchen work, that was weeded out really fast. They would come in, I got this much experience, I'm this, I'm that, and that, and then day one afterwards we'd all get together and they'd be like, what do you think? And I'd be like, I don't think he's worked in a kitchen for 15 fucking years. And then which is funny why people make stuff up, because you can tell. You really can't hide lying about how long you've worked somewhere. But yeah, you find out pretty fast when you start putting the heat on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. 4 hours into your first shift in the shop, and I give
Can we take break?
Yeah. I give you, or if I give you a little, like, hey, make this door, and step one, they don't do it right. Okay, what's your training? All what you told me before wasn't, nothing's adding up here. So
yeah,
you can't fake it.
Have you had that uncomfortable conversation with somebody yet?
I'm not going to go into too many details, but I've had some uncomfortable conversations with people, and that doesn't typically work out.
No, which is why I said it's always odd when people think that they can just kind of get through it. You can't hide it in the kitchen at all.
No, and especially it's a two-man job, two-man shop, so there's nowhere to hide. It's not like it's a big 100-person business, and I'm just going to go take naps on break time and not do my job. I'm not saying that's what happened, but I'm saying there's nowhere to hide.
No. Yeah,
it's you, me, in a 1,500 square foot building. Yeah. And I'm a pretty laid back guy until I'm not. So I get to the point where I'm going to give you some slack, and then eventually, if it doesn't work out, we part ways and shake hands and move on.
Yeah, there's no point in having bad blood on it, but no,
definitely not.
It's got to be. It's just crazy hearing about like even having to even think that you were going to get to a point with employees and all that stuff. And
yeah,
do you think you want to push it further? Like, do you have visions of it, like doing, like, I don't know, what else would you do to push it further? Because I mean, at this point, you're doing like room designs and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think if it gets any bigger, I'll spend too much time designing and not enough time building.
Yeah.
I'm in it to make money, but I'm also in it because I love what I do. I love
the whole process.
Woodworking. I love dealing with customers, metal fabrication. These are all my passions, and I turned them into my job. So I would end up just doing pencil pushing again, which is what I got out of. I used to be an engineer. Sitting in a cubicle, behind a computer, 40, 50 hours a week, and that is not me. I like to get my hands dirty. I like to get in there. I love to create, and I think if I brought too many people on, I would end up in a managerial role and right back where I wasn't happy before.
Yeah, because you would just be jumping from job to job.
Yeah, essentially I'd be just quoting jobs and talking to customers and end users and handing off prints to guys, which is exactly what I was doing as an engineer. And eventually that kind of burnt me out to a point where I wasn't happy doing that.
Because then you're just being pushed to
and then
maximize one thing constantly.
Yeah, you're probably repeating designs as much as possible so the guys know how to build them faster, and trying to increase output to make more money, and then you just get stuck in the hamster wheel, and that's not what I'm about.
No, the hamster wheel's not fun unless you create the hamster wheel.
Yeah, exactly. I've had the fortune to get hooked up with an architect recently with Studio 26.
Oh yeah. You were telling me that when we were talking about the sign.
Yeah.
So what doors got opened with that for anybody who doesn't understand getting hooked up with an architect?
Well, I think it was a referral through a mutual friend of my wife and I. And sometimes that's all that it takes is just, you got to know the right people. So he called me. I'm like, he said, I have a customer looking for a river bar. I hear you do those. Sure, I can do a river bar. It's in a really expensive home. This is all we build, high end. I said, everything sounds great to me. let's go check it out. Met the customer. I had to kind of prove myself to the customer. They didn't know who I was. I don't have much of a reputation in that market in the valley yet. So I did a few samples for them, got a good rapport with the customer, and then they brought me on for the bar, and then I was able to do a few more pieces for their home all at the same time. I think it worked out really well for everybody involved. They love the work I do. Like you said, I'm kind of have my own unique style, and I can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
So I was able to give them some different stuff that the other cabinet shops in town weren't offering, and it worked out really well for me financially. And I have a good relationship with the architect going forward. So I'm starting another project with them tomorrow, and hopefully sky's the limit. And these are the kind of clients that they have that have the extra cash to be able to do really cool one-off stuff that you just can't find everywhere. They want something different that nobody has, and that's 100% what I want to do. That's where I want to be.
Yeah, what did that feel like when like when you had to prove yourself? Because like even the little bit, like we're friends, but when we worked with the sign stuff, it was, Jer always likes to keep things professional, and I'm learning how to do that. But like you have a way in how you conduct yourself where you can, like, it's not bullshit that you enjoy the customer part.
Yeah.
So like you were excited to come and like walk and see the space, and then when we told you the vision, you're all envisioning it. So what was that like for somebody where you knew that it was an avenue? Because I know builders who want to get into that because now you're dealing with clients that don't really have a budget and they want to do big projects, and it's the stuff that you got into it for to do, but the people don't do that kind of stuff unless they have a lot of money. So it's few and far between unless you fall into that niche. So if you start getting closer to that niche and then they're like, prove yourself, what was that like getting the call where they were like, oh, we're above and beyond, we're into this project, like, let's do it? Like that had to feel so good to go from starting this business and not knowing what you were going to do with it all the way up until where you're getting the nod from the people that you essentially wanted to work for.
Yeah, it's you put the time in, you do everything you can up front, and then you put the quote together and you email it out. And then it's like, you hear the tick,
and then you're just like walking away from the computer and being like, should I have said that?
Yeah. You're like, did I word it right?
Yeah.
Did I charge too much? Was I too cheap? Like, did I do it right?
Yeah, there's never getting off the hook.
Yeah, and it's like, 24 hours goes by, and then I go to the wife, I don't know, maybe I should have charged a little less. Maybe I was too expensive.
And then be like, you know what? I know my worth.
Yeah.
You're yelling at the dinner table.
It's an internal conversation,
Always.
and sometimes external when you're talking to other people. But then
always,
you get the email back. Yeah, we're good to go. Thumbs up. Let's do this.
And it's always the simplest answer. Like, love it.
Yeah.
Like what?
And then you're like, oh, this is great. And then it makes you feel really good because then it's like you proved your self-worth.
Yeah. And that's hard. That's hard to manage, and it's hard to gauge when you're learning, and then you don't know if you're good enough to charge what you think you're worth. But then like your friends and other people are like, dude, you should totally be charging this. And then you talk to other people who are like, what are you doing? And then it's just like, well, I'm just trying to get there. And I still struggle with it on some stuff. But like the other thing too is like I take on challenging projects. Like Jer, he has the production company, FMP that out of Philly that he works for, and he hired me for work. And the fact that he asked me to hire me for work means that I must be doing something right here, that he would consider me credible to work bottom tier of what he's doing.
Yeah.
But I'm so excited to learn that because now I can be like, oh, well, my day rate is what I got over here for a day, and that's real.
Yeah.
So like I like to, it's not that I don't want to give myself worth, but I don't give myself worth a number until I feel like I've earned it. And then like sometimes you got to get your hands into projects and do it multiple times where like I don't want to charge somebody too much money to walk through this door because if I don't do it correctly, I overshot it. And I'm always afraid of doing that. So there's always the constant battle of like, am I good enough? Yes, I am good enough. You've done this, you've done that, you've done this. So then I like to take on a challenging project to be like, no, that's a good worth. That'll give you worth. And then when you start paying attention to the worth and paying attention to the projects that'll give you worth, like you having that under your belt, now you know where you can go.
Yeah, exactly.
And like nobody really ever talks about that either. Like they're just always like, yeah, do it. Like, well, there's no blueprint to knowing self-worth.
Yeah, Yeah, it's a big hurdle that a lot of people go through. You see it a lot on Instagram. There's all these people out there offering like classes on like how to teach people to start their business. And I've listened to a few podcasts about it, and really you think about it as much as you can. But at the end of the day, it's a gut reaction.
Yeah.
It's having the right client.
Yep.
And self-worth goes a long way. And I'm a pretty confident guy, but at the end of the day, there's always that little voice in the back of your head that's going, nah, you could have done that a little bit different.
Yeah.
And then, I tell myself, okay, well, maybe, that was a good price for this project. I know if I would do it again, I would do this or this different, but I know what to charge for it now because I've done it.
Yeah.
Since I do so many new things and everything's a little different, it's hard.
It's got to be really hard to gauge.
It's not just a one size fits all, and every situation is.
It's
the
almost
same.
like you need years of work, so then you have a gauge from doing Keaton's roof to this, that, and that, and then that's the other thing too is like nobody understands when they say you got to put the years in. What they mean is you basically need to come across every single scenario, so that by the time you get to year 5, you're just knowing what to do because you've hit every scenario.
Yeah.
And like people just say things and it's never really explained. And then when like I'm learning stuff, I'm like, oh, that's what they meant by like put your time in. But you have to like fuck up a bunch. You have to, you have to.
Hopefully not too much, but yeah.
But I'm saying like, not fuck up, but like you have to fail in order to. So then and there's things that I do this year that I do not do that was wrong from year 1. And then it's like, then you just keep moving it. And then eventually it's like, okay, we got a little momentum. And then you just take the learning experiences and then almost combine them to your blueprint on like how to run the business.
Yeah, exactly. You got to fall off your bike a few times before you can jump off that ramp, and then you're going to fall a few more times because you're going to keep pushing what you can do.
Yeah. Because once you get to the new level, then everything wipes out, and it's like, oh man.
Yeah. Then I think guys like you and me, we're not happy with the bare minimum.
No.
You could do. That's not fun. Let's ratchet it up. Let's push it a little harder.
Yeah.
Once you get to that level, you're like, I'm doing great. Let's push it a little more. Let's see what we can do.
My therapist told me that every time I get to the finish line, I move it.
That's good though, right?
I mean, it's got me really far. And then she's like, dude, you gotta accept the finish line. And I'm like, I don't feel like I'm there. And like it has to feel like I'm starting to feel now where like I'm being comfortable in like what I'm doing and what I'm about to do. And I feel like that's an okay spot to pat myself on the back, but I'm not satisfied there. I mean, I talked about 5 other businesses with you. Like I'm already like, let's do this, let's do that, let's do this. So it's like, but I like thinking like that. And like that's how I got here. Was not thinking that I should just do a t-shirt company. So like when you start giving yourself more room to paint, you start painting more. And then the more you kind of start doing that, the more you get into bigger things. And then it starts looking like, now I see how other people got that far because they're making this move here and they just started before me.
Yep. And you can't let somebody else's experience hinder your experience.
No. You always got to go by your own.
I love whenever I meet another craftsman who's obviously good at their trade, I'll pick their brain until they tell me I'm annoying.
Stop it.
Yeah, like, dude, we could talk about something besides work. Like, no. I need to know.
I do that with food.
What do you do? How do you do it? Give me information because I'm a sponge. Let me suck it up. And then once you think you're the smartest guy in the room, that's when you make mistakes.
Yeah.
So I always try to talk to people. There's millions of people out there who are smarter than I am, who are better than I am. And I try to find them like Russell built. You see these guys online, and just it doesn't hurt to send them a DM.
He's like one of the nicest guys ever.
Yeah,
I can't wait to talk to him again.
Yeah,
we go back and forth on DMs, but he's like a really, really, really good dude.
Yeah, and you see someone like that with raw talent and the drive, and
from nothing,
and
he's doing he was just doing odd jobs with his brother.
Yeah, like handyman and stuff.
Yes, and then he did like that one project for the college. I think that's what pushed it over. And then now he's doing like
he did the
stairs and
that crazy spiral staircase. Like,
yeah, dude, and he's just doing it.
Yeah,
there's no stopping to figure it out. I'm like, man, this guy really knows his shit. He's a good dude. I would like to go out there or see if he would come out here or do both. I've only met him through Zoom, and you could just tell through talking to him like he's just straight up
Genuine guy.
genuine guy who
Yep.
just wants to work hard.
Yeah.
And then that shop he built. like,
Yeah, that's awesome. His addition's the size of my whole garage.
Yeah.
But I mean, obviously he's cranking out work, so there's
Yeah.
something there he's doing awesome. I mean, everything he does is awesome. So
Yeah.
and he's got that new fast cut CNC. That thing's just makes me drool.
That's
every time
cool. And then like he ain't missing a beat. He's doing social media stuff and
Yeah,
doing
he's
reels.
killing it. Yeah. Yeah, he's
like,
doing reels.
He's like adding hip hop to it. And I was like, yo, like this guy's crazy. He's
Makes me feel like my page is neglected.
yeah, because he works, man. He works.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
what you need a little bit of hustle, and you need some desire, and days where you're having a hard day, and you're like, oh man, nothing went right today. Sometimes it's good just I hop on social media and check out what some other guys are doing, and they help lift you back up, and you go, this is pretty neat. These guys are killing it, and they're hustling, they're doing it.
Yeah.
So I can do it too.
I like when you find the pages like what you're doing or Russell Build's doing, where like when you do that walkthrough, when you're like, here's what we got going on in the shop, like that. If you pay attention to that, like it's like, all right, cool. Like I'm out of my day now, and now I'm in the shop, and now we're gonna go over the project. And sometimes it's just I'll just sit there and be like, oh, cool. It's relaxing. I'm not dealing with my own shit. And it's like that's kind of how I build my page, where like I want it to be just like art and cool stuff, and it's a little bit funny, and then there's like things going on, but there's food, and then there's the podcast stuff, and it's just like I like trying to just keep things different. I keep a lot of bullshit out of it, and I want it to be a place where people like everything I put on there is what takes me out of my annoyances during my day.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure it's similar to you because your work is your life and your passion. So like when you're explaining that, like it's coming from a point of like, I'm so excited to do this project, and then it kind of takes you out of like your bullshit.
And I really like being able to show the customer their stuff in process. I used to post in process shots on my page, but it kind of messes up the look of the page, and I kind of want you to be able to almost like a catalog, be able to scroll through.
It's nice when I show people your work. Because like Jer, I keep trying to get him to go over to onto Instagram, but he just hangs on Facebook. So when
Facebook.
I cannot stand it at all. I can't believe people still like talk on there, and like there's some people who like never got. Everybody overshared on there. Everybody when it started, and then everyone was like, "Yeah, I don't know if people should really know that much about you every day." And then everybody kind of took it back a little bit, and then there's still 10% of the people that are just like, here's my life and my problems, and that's what's left on Facebook, and everyone else really left. And then who stayed there are people's parents.
Yeah.
It's like
And that's part of my demographic. I have to. I
No.
have a Facebook presence to kind of.
I still post on it. You can still get Facebook marketing. There's still it is still its worth. But as far as like content, drivel.
Yeah. I just have my Instagram auto populates
That's
my
what I do
Facebook.
too.
So
I love Instagram. I think Instagram is the best platform to use. But like whenever I show anyone your work, like you're scrolling through it, it's like looking through a catalog. It's like, check this out, check that out, he did this project. Then I'm trying to scroll to find other projects you did with other people and all the different stuff. But you've done some killer stuff that's like super impressive, massive projects since the last time you were here.
Yeah, I didn't think I would necessarily get involved with things that large, but that's just kind of the goes how it goes. So as long as the customers are there and they want me to do stuff for them, I'll take on whatever tasks they have.
It's weird how, and I was trying to explain this to my brother because my brother called me, and like all week I've kind of gotten, and you probably get stuff like this where you're just like at a party and somebody asks you like, how did you do that? Like, I really don't like my job.
Yeah.
And then like you start kind of like, I don't know, like having people talk to you, and then you start really figuring out why you did it, and it's just like nice to like kind of look back and like, do you have people kind of ever like pick your brain on like how you got to where you are?
Yeah, every now and again I'll have someone, kind of, do you like working for yourself? Are you happy you made the move? And yes, I'm very happy I made the move.
Yeah.
I like working for myself. I think it would be hard at this point to go back to
I don't think
a
I'd be
9
able
to 5 corporate job. It would be tough. I mean, I could do it if I had to, but
Absolutely.
it would be difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people I hang out with on a daily basis, they all pretty much know me and know my story, so I don't run into too many people off the beaten path. But I mean, if I have any words of wisdom to do, if you're interested in doing it, you're not going to do it by sitting there not doing it. You either got to move forward every day, take a step forward, and get it, and just do work, get it done. Otherwise, if you're just going to sit there and nothing's just going to automatically just fall in your lap.
No.
So you got to put the time and effort in, get out there and do it, no matter what it is. And if it fails after a couple of years, what's the big deal? You go back to doing what you're doing before.
Yeah, I always looked at it that way. And, I was telling my brother, like, you never know what's going to come out of something. And that's like advice I give the younger people or anyone who kind of starts, well, I don't know what to do. And then they think because they don't have the entire project figured out, they can't move forward. And then when I really look at like how it started was like making t-shirts. And then it was like, all right, well, I'm just going to make t-shirts. And then after you start making t-shirts, you start learning a business and you start learning a little bit more. Mm-hmm. And then you can start having an opportunity to expand and go different directions. And then like what it's turned into now happened because I wasn't pigeonholing myself into, you need to just do this. And then when I kind of freeingly let the business build that way and I pay attention to numbers and money and how fast things are turning around and spikes on things, and whether that's like when I got into the podcast, like that went so fast and was so popular, and I was like, oh, this is a good thing because this is something that's happening fast, and I think there's money here. Mm-hmm. And then I stayed here, and then when the food came along, because of what I learned jumping into this lane, I knew I could recreate it with this, but it would happen way faster because I already learned how to make money with this.
Yep.
Now I'm over here. Now I'm at a point where I'm taking everything from the beginning and bringing it back together, when if I would have ever thought that this is the way this business should have ran, is me doing all these different things, I would have never have done it because I wouldn't have been able to do it that way. And like when you start out doing something, the idea of it's there, and you should just naturally let it progress to a point where you're enjoying yourself and control that. And then that's like the ideal way to like be satisfied, happy, and not burn out and turn it into something you hate. But so many people get fantasize with like, oh, well, I want to do this, and this. I'm like, well, you have too much shit that you want to do. You should just have started already.
Yeah.
And you need to just start working, and then the work will weed itself out, and then you just keep going. All the dumb shit they tell you, like surround yourself with positive people, work really hard. That's all true.
Yes.
It just sounds stupid because you don't know what it means to start doing it.
Yeah. And some people will romanticize the idea of working for themselves.
Yes.
Oh, it would be so great. I'll have Fridays off and, I'll get to do whatever I want. And it's like the reality is you work 24/7.
All the time.
But ideally, it's something that you enjoy and something that you love.
So it doesn't feel like work. So it's like a weird, like I had to work this whole weekend. So Friday night I had to do a podcast at like 8 p.m. Mm-hmm. And then Saturday I had to go over to Music Fest to get content for sponsors that were down there. Then Sunday I had to cook for a birthday party. So this is the first time in a long time I've had to work all week and then go right into a weekend. And then I'm like, man. And then I stop myself and I'm like, bro, this isn't work. Mm-hmm. Like you're going to fucking Music Fest.
Yeah, going to Music Fest.
But I mean, it was like, I have to pay attention to what I'm doing. I've obviously built a craft and how I'm creating content. I know what Yanni wanted.
Yeah.
You do have to take good pictures. It does have to look a specific way for what I think is worthy enough of me to give to the client.
Yep.
I wanted to go over to Liz's booth and give them content. Mm-hmm. And it was cool because like Liz was super pumped that I stopped there and posted, and she's like, awesome. Like that gave her motivation because they had problems with moving their booth. And then like, and then Friday night the podcast went really well and we're working on projects. And like Friday I would cook for my buddy's 21st birthday and like all the feedback. So it's like, it's work, but like it's such a positive outlet that it's like it just keeps filling me, and I'm just like, oh, awesome. Like that's all I ever wanted was to be filled up by work and not be shit on or emptied out or work too hard or told to go do something that I wasn't that good at and you just made me do it all the time. Like I don't like that stuff, and I tell everybody, you don't like your drive into work, you should probably figure it out, because I have friends that are telling me they're retiring in 10 years, and I'm like, you can't find something to do for a living in 10 years? Like, that's crazy to me. You're just going to ride it out? That's nuts. To me, it's nuts. I get it, but I would never sit. I dedicated over 10 years to this and didn't even realize it, let alone I got nine more years. 9 more years, 8 more years. It's like
Yeah.
doing prison time.
Yeah, you don't want that. I mean, I think you've really surrounded yourself with a really great network of people here. All the entrepreneurs.
That's
that
what
you bring
started.
in.
That's what started really changing is when I was able to just start doing these solo, and I could do them twice as fast. And even when I was with Jesse too, we could rip him. But he's only. I don't push him because he's got kids. He's got a full-time job. He owns 2 houses. Like, it's a life. My life is built to do this. So like when I'm able to just kind of like rip these out, like you start really learning the amount of motivation that, like, I'll end these and people be like, let's go, man.
Let's go do something.
Because it's like some people get a fire under their ass because you know how it is where you get stale doing something and you need a project, and sometimes just talking to somebody will lift your day up. Or like when I talked to Tony Gallo, who's coming on for Banco stuff, and like we went out to dinner and like we just started ripping, and he's like, we should do a show together, and I'm like, I would love to do a show. And then now me and Tony are looking in to do a show, but it's like it was hard in the beginning because you're not around people like that. And then once I developed a way for it to be beneficial for people like that to be around me and to make it worth everybody's while, the sky's the limit on what has been created through just bringing people through a revolving door. And then what's crazy is you could hit me up and be like, Mike, do you have any connections to this? Like Zach hit me up and goes, I want to put on a wrestling event at the thing. He goes, I need a wrestling ring. And I go, I got you. And he's like, what? And he's like,
You got a wrestling ring guy?
and I was like, I do, Chris from LVAC. But I know that because I used to get t-shirts from Chris when he worked in a shed. He's been on the podcast. He's coming back on the podcast next week. But like I hit up Chris and I was like, yo, what's your rates for the ring? He's like, here's some contact. And I just sent it back to Zach and we laughed. And he's like, you have a contact for a wrestling ring.
That's great. That's a big part of being.
But it's like but it's weird because like people, like my brother's like, hey, there's a chef at work, and he's like, I need bread, and I'm like, all right, what are you looking for? And he's like, well, do you think that like Giacomo's would maybe let me know? And I'm like, I'll ask. And I was like, hey Sal, like this is for my brother, and I don't care, like, but do you tell people where your bread's from? And he's like, sends me a contact picture, and he goes like, cool, here's the contact. I don't care. Like you're never like. He already knows no one's replicating Giacomo's.
Yeah.
He's been in there for 30 years. Then 10 minutes later, I sent over to my brother and I was like, yo, here's the bread from Giacomo's. And he's like, cool. Like, you really just got that? And I was like, yeah, by this point, the network it's pretty endless. It's cool. But I enjoy helping people. I enjoy making all the connections. I enjoy having people around me that are like building businesses. I like talking to business owners. I like just feeding off of that. Even the stuff that we went over today, it's like, it's really cool watching how big your business has gotten and like the massive projects you're doing, getting an employee. Like you weren't doing any of that last time you were in here.
2 years ago.
That's not that long ago.
No.
That's a very rapid pace that your business turned into that.
Yeah, it's all about getting the right opportunities and getting the right people around you. Just like you, I have a network of people that I can buy materials off of now. Like if someone says I need a slab, I go, well, I got 4 guys that I can call tomorrow and figure out, is that available? Because you just can't go buy.
Yeah. But it's really cool building that off of projects you've worked with people.
Yeah, and it's all about, meeting people and talking to people and just generally being a good person, I think, helps in this world. There's a lot of people who make life difficult for themselves. I try to uplift people around me, and I think that kind of the aura I give off kind of shows that, and people tend to, hey, if you need help with something, give me a call, let me know, and we'll work something out. So having those relationships make me a better at my craft, and then in turn help everybody else. Just like with what you're doing here, your network of entrepreneurs that come on. If I'm having a bad day in the shop or I'm need some mental stimulation, I put your podcast on. You have on Liz or Valley Ohm or Frosted Chaos or one of these people, and I hear their conversation and go, oh, man, I'm going to work a little harder today.
Yeah, because everybody really goes through the whole thing.
Yeah.
It was cool how because it just naturally happened that the show turned into this because I just am genuinely interested in people, and then like the more I just kind of kept peeling back the story and getting better at talking to people, especially during the first interview. And I'm only getting better at it. And the more I keep pushing myself to ask better questions, the more honest and real it becomes. And then you actually start realizing how hard it is to do stuff like Rogan and Stern does. And they make it flawless, but that's like a very difficult thing that they do. But like, you know, the feedback on it is always positive. They're like, man, like I listened to the show because, you know, it started where I started kind of bringing up points where I would be honest about how hard it is for me to do something. And then I was like, oh, well, people could relate to that. And the more honest I am, then the guest becomes honest, or vice versa, where the guest starts going through their troubles. But like, I just always focused on the shittiest part of it and then breaking that down with somebody, and then a listener will be like, oh, well, I gone through that. Or if you're somebody and you're listening to stuff, it's like, that's how I am when I get into my podcast. You want to relate to the people. And then it's cool to get feedback where it's like, yo, like I listened to the Oak and Iron podcast, and like I'm gonna ask him to do some work, or I'm gonna start my own thing because you guys were talking about this. And it's all that stuff that like the show's over and you forget, because like when you have real conversations with people, it's just kind of like a moment and then you walk away. It's not like you really leave and be like, you know, oh, that's, you know, half the time when I talk to people, I just always have been real. And then so it's not abnormal for me to not be honest and shit. And then when I started doing that with the sponsors, that's when I knew it was way easier to work with people if you were upfront about everything. And like now when I do the sponsors, I'm like, I don't really fuck with views anymore. It's like, yeah, this show goes out and it does very well. But at the same time, it's like, if I wanted to monetize off that, small business wouldn't be able to pay for it. But I don't want to take money out of small business because small business doesn't have money. So what can I do? And I'm like, all right, well, here's a number that if everybody gets together, pays my bills, and we can turn the lights on. And then if I can turn the lights on, I'll have you on my podcast and we can create content together, and you can use that in order to build your business. And if something happens out of that, maybe me and you could make money together. That's way better than me trying to tell you, you need to pay me $750 a month because I pay Facebook to send an ad out, and then I tell you it goes out to 30,000 people and we don't ever know what it does for you. People do that shit all the time. That doesn't help anybody out. You fuck over the small business and burn all their money. You want to go do that to a corporation, fine, but like when I started seeing these people take their money, the little money, whether it was $50 or $100 or $75 off the very beginning of me doing this, that meant a lot because they didn't have an extra $100. And they believed in me. And then I was like, well, I got to work harder now because these people want results. And then that started kind of turning the whole thing into what it's about to become. And it's been a very natural progression of just being honest with people and real and just trying to do the best that I can in order to help their business. And when you act like that, whether you're doing it in any form of business, it'll shine. But people don't do that a lot.
No, some people believe that you have to step on somebody else's face to get ahead in this world. And I think it's easier to lift everybody up together.
Sure.
We're all going to move forward. We're going to all maximize our potential together, and I think just easier for everybody when you have that mentality. Yeah,
and there's other mentalities too that like we go to some pop-ups, and like the last pop-up we did wasn't well at all. It was close, but like we didn't make a lot of money. But then sometimes you have to realize too that it's not about money. And then like on the ride home, you know, Gina's like, will be like, and then I'll be like, all right, well, let's go over it. What do we get out of it? Take money out of it. That's still more money than if we worked those hours at a real job. So we did good. Now, what else was there? Was there any good networking? And I'll be like, yeah, I talked to this guy and I got a show out of it, or I talked to this person and somebody wants to book catering. And it's not always about the money. And sometimes people focus too hard on that too, where I'm like, yo, I walked out of there with a potential sponsor. It's a podcast. I can add this, and that to my pop-ups now. I got my name out there. I am doing a job and a service for a corporate gig. So there is that down the road. Maybe right now is not the time that I get paid. And then when I stop looking at shit like that, because I've always been building this from no money, so like why would I expect that I need a lot of money to do anything? So like when I changed those perspectives and that mentality, that's when I started moving mountains as well as treating people like people. And it's stupid, simple, basic stuff that people do not do.
Yeah. Society, I think, is unfortunately shifted in the wrong direction as far as that goes. I think social media has a big negative influence
Of course.
on how people view other people. There's a lot of I want what they have because people
keeping up with the Joneses, stuff like that.
People only put their best foot online typically, unless you're on Facebook, and you just spew garbage. But
so good.
Yeah, you know, if everybody just looked at my Instagram, they'd be like, "Well, this guy's got it all figured out." But
look at that hot rod he has.
I actually sold the hot rod.
I can't believe you did that.
You got to make room, man.
Yep.
The garage is full of building materials.
That was a cool ride.
now.
How long did you have that?
Let me think here. That was like a 6 years. I might have had that.
Yeah.
It was like a 3.5 solid year build where every weekend I'd go out in the garage for 25 hours and work in the garage.
That's fun though.
It was cool, but the wife was like, "Don't ever think about buying another one of those." So it was fun when I had it, and I sold it to a guy who's like, "I love everything you've done about this." He's like, "This is me." I had a bunch of guys that came by and test drove it, and they're like, "I'm gonna change this, 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 and this, and this." And then I had a guy that drove up from Virginia. He's like, "I like it exactly like it is. I wouldn't change a thing." I'm like, "Cool, man." And he's like, "I'm gonna give you exactly what you're asking for it." And his mom was with him, and she's like, "You're not a very good negotiator." He's like, "I don't care. I want it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "All right, well, the right person found it. All my blood, sweat, and tears went to somebody else who's going to appreciate it as much as I put into it." I have over 3,000 hours into a build.
I can't believe people were telling you what they were going to change.
Yeah, guys like, "Oh, I'm going to take all this off. I don't like that you did this. I don't like that."
So I'm paying less.
Yeah,
by the way.
exactly. Yeah. He's like, "I'm not going to give you what you're asking. I'm going to pay you about 4,000 less because I'm going to change a bunch of. I'm going to put some fat tires on here." And I'm like, "Oh man, you're gonna cut her up?" Like, no, it's perfect. Or in my mind, it was or good enough. So, yeah, having a project like that is a great once in a lifetime experience. I wouldn't recommend it for everybody. That was that was a lot. That was a lot of commitment monetarily and time wise. But
yeah,
I'm glad I did it.
Even when you get into small projects like doing stuff with the Grom, like. We've been going back and forth on that for a while, and Keith will kind of tell me like what needs to be done, and then Keith can work on it as much as Keith can, and then sometimes like right now we're getting ready to send the computer out to be flashed, so it'll do about 70, 71.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I'm pumped. 52 uphill right now is not it's not fun. I don't really want it to go faster. I want it to be safer, and in order for it to be safer, I need to get up hills faster, and those bikes are too slow.
Yeah, you can't be like the slowest guy in traffic.
Nope, it's Dumb and Dumber, and I'm like, Plus I love like those back road rides. Like when I went from the Delaware Water Gap to here, it was just all mountains, and like there's only 4 gears, and I'm like, man, this is a blast. And then I get into Wing Gap, and you want to go a little bit faster because you want to just get away from the guy behind you, or like sometimes there's long shots where I'm just like, meh. And so like it's like it takes time to do that. I've had that part for a while now, and we just haven't lined up to send it out. Plus I'm obsessed with riding it, so you don't want to put it down. So like I'm trying next week to send it out, but then it's going to sit for 2 weeks, and then once it's done, there's always like, oh, well, I could do the bars. Oh, well, I could do this. Because originally it was just like the fender eliminator, do that on it. And I love dicking around with the Grom. Like I'm learning on it. I was never a car guy. My dad never had the patience. I never had any patience. So like my brothers can mechanically do stuff like that, but I never was. So it's fun learning on something simple like the motorcycle and like changing my own oil and like understanding the mechanics behind it and like kind of catching up to something that didn't make sense when it did for everyone else. I like projects like that, but building what you built, I would never be able to do that.
Yeah, that was my dad was never into cars. So like he didn't.
How'd you get into cars?
In high school, we were that's all me and my buddies did. We just worked. I had a mini truck, that was like big back in the 90s. I'm dating myself now.
No. I'm friends. I went to mini truck shows and we're friends.
I had an S10 and we slammed it and did an engine swap on it and did all the fun stuff and and we had.
Where'd you work out of? Just each other's garages?
Yeah, I had I started in my mom's garage, and the rule was that I could work in the garage all weekend, and on Sunday her car came back in the garage. So I had a wood shop in there that I'd been developing since I was 15, and I had
That's crazy.
So I could tuck away all my tools on the far end. It was like a 2.5 car garage. All my stuff would tuck in around the perimeter and wouldn't get in their way, and they could pull in and out on the during the week. So I'd work on my car, Friday when I got home from school until Sunday night, and I'd work on it nonstop. And then eventually I talked them into letting me take it for 6 months to do an engine swap because I thought I knew what I was doing, and took my engine out and got myself into a bunch of hot water, but we figured it out.
Yeah.
No internet back then, so
No,
or barely a little bit of internet.
Now it could just be completely YouTube. That's how I've been doing a lot of stuff. I watched like Grom Oil Change. You found the right guy that like they monetize off of putting out a really good show with like correct camera angles. And that like you could actually watch and learn. So like it's cool now for me because that's like my encyclopedias. Like I was never one to be able to like get my head into a book. It's hard to do that. So now to be able to go on YouTube and like watch, because then like I had these plastic plates taken off, and I had Nate from Scribbles and Drips carbon fiber wrap it to match the carbon fiber tip on the new exhaust, and then like we got them off, and then like I didn't want to break them, so like I said to my dad, I'm like, we should probably watch a video on this, and he's like, what? And I'm like, come on inside, and then like I put in like Grom fender replacement, and then it took a little bit, but we found the video, and then I was like, oh, there it is, and then we watched 30 seconds, and my dad goes, this is all you got to do? And I'm like, yeah, this is all you got to do now is find shit on YouTube, and they will walk you through the entire project.
Yeah, it makes life a lot easier now that that's there. That
back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day.
It's like all the kids going to school with phones. I'm sure they're allowed to use them in class, aren't they?
I don't know.
Calculators? Do you remember it was a big deal? Don't have a calculator, you cheater.
That's illegal.
You cheater.
Yeah, because you can play Snake on your calculator.
They used to ban calculators.
Yeah, I didn't even.
Little did they know what was coming down the pipe.
I didn't get my first cell phone until sophomore year of college, I think. So like,
they had pagers.
Myself.
They had pagers.
I had
first,
a pager
because I had a pager, and right after I got my pager, everybody stopped using pagers.
Yeah,
and I was like, motherfucker! I just got the cool red one from like T-Mobile. Then it went to Nextel walkie-talkies.
Oh, that's right.
That was so much fun.
The chirps.
But the only thing that sucked is that you literally would be interrupting anybody anywhere because you couldn't turn it off. So you just hear like, yo, and it was like legit a walkie-talkie, but that was some of the funnest shit was dicking around on the Nextel chirps. Because it was like basically built for construction originally.
Yeah, essentially it was just like, trying to tap a guy at a job site. Hey, I got a quick question for you.
Yeah.
Not like general use for the population.
It's pretty much what turned into text messaging.
Yeah. Which is, everybody loves that now. So, but I definitely had a pager, I think 11th grade, 12th grade. My buddy's like, yo, you got to get one of these.
Yep.
I'm like, what do I need one for? Like, so we can get a hold of you, man.
And then they're calling you from 7-Eleven.
And then you got to go find a payphone to call them back. Oh, man, what a time.
I can't even remember. I don't remember when. It was probably Nextel is the first cell phone, but I didn't use it as a cell phone because I didn't care about my minutes. I cared about the chirps. And then after that is probably when I got into an iPhone. I don't think I got into... Nope, I lied. It was a couple of the T-Mobile flip phones.
Yeah.
But I think as soon as the iPhone came out, I was weary and was like, whatever, Apple. And then like Josh or somebody was like, had it the one day, and I was like, what's this? And he's like, the iPhone. And then like he let me fuck around with it, and then like the next week I bought an iPhone.
Yep.
And then it was just kind of downhill from there. But I love it. I mean, it's such a tool for my job at this point with like taking pictures, and like the fact that you can go on Instagram and go live and do your story, and like the reels are coming on to a thing now, and then like it's really like has made what I'm trying to do easier, because I was trying to do all this shit when you weren't able to do any of it.
Yeah.
Because I remember like cutting weird videos back in the day when I was like doing promos for podcasts that were coming out once a month, and then like they'd pull the songs, but now all the music's fucking built into it and all that stuff. It's crazy. It's wild that you can cut a commercial for your business and put it on Instagram.
Yeah, it's pretty wild what you're able to do. I have a hard time keeping up with the social media.
I won't do TikTok.
And I constantly get my following isn't probably what it should be based on I don't do the reels as much as I should. I don't post.
But reels are hard because
as frequently as I should.
It's like if the reels don't work for what you're doing, they don't care because they want it to be TikTok. But it's like, I care about what my stuff looks like.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
I over edit everything, or I'll put a filter, and like even the reels I'm doing now is like I'm essentially taking the clips from the interviews like I used to do before, but now I got to turn them into a reel. But to do that, you have to put them in the wrong format because what is it, 16:9 I think is what it is, where it's this.
Yeah, where they chop it down.
That's wrong.
Yeah,
you're supposed to film sideways, not vertical. So like when I take this footage, I have to expand it and make it so it doesn't look like shit, and then you got to drop a background behind it, and I'm like, dude, this is so much more work if you do it correctly, because everyone's just using a phone.
Yeah.
So because everyone's using a phone, everyone's using it wrong, and then that's just the standard.
Yeah, that's what the algorithm wants. You gotta bow down to the overlords and give them what they want, or they don't put you out there, which is really a shame.
Well, they don't, and like now they're gonna start monetizing for Reels hits. So like they're going to start doing like the whole monetization thing where if you pull in enough numbers on Reels. So now I talked to a couple of people. They're like, yeah, I'm getting on the Reels. You just got to keep doing it. And I'm like, well, how do you know if you get monetized? And like, well, they'll contact you. And I'm like, well, that's a good way to make a bunch of people do what you want.
Yeah.
Like, what do you mean they're going to contact you? So like, I don't know. But like my screen printer, he's like all about it. And he's like, you know what? He's like, it's going to help my social media. And he's like, if there's a way to monetize off of it. And then like, he just started thinking differently on how he was going to film stuff. But like, it's not easy to put shit into a reel format if you want it to look correctly.
Yeah.
Because even the way they do it now is because they show up is like, it'll be some dude surfing and it's like a 3-second blurb of a song and it's over. And I'm like, now our time is 3 seconds?
Yeah.
Like, what are you doing? What happened to a minute? A minute seems so long now.
Yeah, I usually have more to say than I can't really get my thought across in that short period of time. So that's why I haven't really bothered in that much.
But if you don't understand like filming or like how to capture something, it's very difficult. The same way that I wouldn't understand measurements, and you could probably look at a room and be like, that's this, that won't fit in there. But that's obscure to me. But like I can also take my camera and understand the process of filming. And if you don't know how to do that, it's not easy to do reels. And who wants to just add a bunch of pictures so they just change like a shitty montage?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because then it would ruin what you're trying to do. And then the real game, I hate when they add shit. And they're always adding shit. And I'm not doing TikTok. I won't do it. I went over there a couple times, and like I do see that like they don't put a limit on how far you go out, and like some of your stuff would go out further, but like I'm not getting into another app. I can't. Like you know how much time goes into one.
Yeah, I don't have time to dedicate any more energy to another app.
Let alone you dancing in your garage.
Yeah. No, nobody wants to see
your
me
wife
dancing
comes
in my
out.
garage.
She's like, "What are you doing?" You're like, "It's TikTok.
It's for the TikTok. All the kids are doing it.
I'm actually not working ever again. I'm just TikToking."
I have a hard enough time dedicating do a walkthrough at the end of the day. Sometimes
you forget.
Exhausted.
Yeah.
I go in and I finally take my work shoes off. I'm sitting on the couch relaxing,
and you're like,
something to eat.
Fuck
I'm like,
the picture.
I got to go back out, and I should probably do a walkthrough. Put
It
something on my stories.
It sucks because like even last night, it's like Jay wanted to go out to eat, and he's like, "Come on, we'll go out to eat. We'll get content." And I'm like, I can't believe he even said that. I'm like, I don't want that to be the norm. I wanted to go get a beer. And if I don't feel like getting content and doing what I have to do in a restaurant, and not giving a fuck who's around me, and not care about walking around taking pictures like a weirdo, I'll do it. But it's exhausting to do all that. And then like we went out to dinner and the lighting worked and it looked cool. And then I was like,
it's a cool place.
Yeah. And I was like, I don't know if anyone really shows this place love through like the Foodstagram people locally. So then I was like, fuck it. So I went in and like took pictures and edited them, and and then I knew Jay wanted me to do that.
Yeah.
So like I just put it out there as our little fucking night out, and then Sir was like, "Yo, thanks so much for like making that post about us, and then like thanks for taking all the pictures, and like we really appreciate that because we can use this stuff for the business." And then I was like, "You have a contact number? Would the owners do a podcast?" And they're like, 100% the owners would do a podcast with you. So sometimes it's like, that's the avenue, but if I don't want to do any of that shit or talk to people or fucking book people, I don't do it. And you know what I mean? Like, so then it's like when you start doing too much with that app, you're just fucking working.
Yeah, you got to be in the right headspace.
Yes, and you shouldn't force yourself when you're not.
Yeah,
it's okay to not fucking post.
And that is the downside of the phone, where people can access you at any hour.
I don't even want to. I learned something when you were like, I don't need to go into specifics. I don't need to go into specifics of people fucking trying to get a hold of me, man. And like, it's nuts, some of the shit that comes down my pipe.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's just, and then it's just, dude, can you do this? 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 What can I? That's like, some of it's supernatural, and somebody will, hey, I'd really like to come on. And if anyone really ever asks to come on, I do it out of the hopes that it helps them.
Yeah.
I could give the one person's coming on as 200 fucking followers. I don't care about any of that anymore. I thought about that in the beginning, and then when you realize that that's not how it works.
Yep.
Because I brought people big in here with big social media, and sometimes it's just not what happens. So like, I just stopped looking at it differently, and then it went back to what we were saying before. You just try and help people. So like, some dude's like, yo, I had some guy hit me up. His follow-up hasn't been great, but we're both busy, but he sells robots to restaurants.
What kind of robots?
Just like service robots that like come to the table. I picture very Rocky with Paulie.
Yeah.
with what was the fucking robot's name? I've always wanted to get it tattooed on me because I always said that there was a weird relationship between Paulie and the robot. Happy birthday, Paulie. So that's what I picture.
Yeah.
It's not going to be that. So he hit me up, and they didn't have a big following, and I was like, is this real? And he's like, what do you mean is this real? And I was like, dude, do you know the amount of horse shit that comes into my fucking DMs between fake shit and people trying to sell me a better way to do what I'm doing already? Like, and then he was like, yeah, this is real. And I was like, cool. And I'm like, what do you want to do? And he's like, well, I'd like to come on and talk to you about robots in the food industry. And I'm like, done.
That's awesome.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't like, cool. I've never talked to anyone about robots. I have just as many questions as you would about wanting to know what the fuck robots are doing in like the food industry.
It's very interesting.
So like, what they do is Kevin Patton's about to do it over at Rocky Ramen. And he's the first person I heard of them using it, but they basically use like a Bluetooth track system, I believe what it is.
Okay.
Where they have like a track system, and then it connects Bluetooth, and then it goes to the patterns that it's supposed to.
Yeah,
so then
a meal delivery.
So you can have it go out to the table, or you can have it seat people. So if the robot comes to the table, says, you know, hey, table for two or whatever, it takes you to a table for two and then comes back to where it is. But then they have ones that do bus the tables, where they'll go out to the table, somebody loads all the dishes, and then it goes right back to the dishwasher. I don't know how practical that works, or I'm excited to see it work at Kevin's restaurant, but it's like big overseas.
So not Johnny Five Alive coming in tank treads. That's where my mind goes.
That's the picture I'm going to use for the fucking for the podcast. But yeah, man, people, you know, but being accessible to everyone is tough. You know, because now they can hit up your Facebook Messenger, they can hit up your Facebook, they can hit up your Instagram Messenger, and they can hit up your Instagram. They can email you, and if they look hard enough, they can find your cell phone.
Yep.
And they'll call.
Yep.
And they'll contact. And they'll call. I had a guy who, and I don't care if he hears this because it was absurd. He got my number, and he called me 2 times the one day, and then he had someone else call me and leave a message on top of his 2 messages. He added me as a friend on Facebook, left me a Facebook Messenger, and then I think he texted me as well.
It's a little aggressive.
Super aggressive. I almost didn't work with him. And then I was like, but I'm trying to change as a business owner, because sometimes you can't, sometimes people are excited, or sometimes people just act that way. But what it comes down to it is, it's a project and it's going to be for money. So going into it already, I'm already like, this is full, you're charging. So I messaged him Friday, and I was like, hey man, I got all your messages, I got all your voicemails. If I don't answer you, it's because I'm with family or with friends, or I'm working. So that means that you don't keep calling. And then I was like, I forget how I worded it. And I was like, so I'm going to contact you on Monday. Do you have time on Monday? And he was like, yes. And then I was like, I'll talk to you then. And then there's some times where you can't get mad at people who are just overly aggressive like that, because you need to set the tone. And I learned that. And then I'm like, oh, that's a really cool business and life skill that I should use more, instead of just getting pissed off at people, where I can be like, hey, stop it.
Yeah.
This is my goddamn space you're coming into. Back up a little bit. This is how I do things over here. And then I felt like I was like a more professional that way, instead of just being pissed off and bitching about the guy.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough. There's so many different aspects, and you're so accessible to so many people.
Customer relations is definitely part of,
and they want the answers now.
Yeah. Some people are like, I need a piece of furniture in a week. And I just kind of laugh and go, yeah, it doesn't really work out like that.
Yep.
You got to wait 6 months, but it's not always the case. And some customers are sometimes people need stuff when they need stuff, so you go above and beyond and,
Yes.
and do what you can.
I'll do that too if somebody wants to come on. Chris from LVAC hit me up and he's like, hey, I have another wrestling thing coming up. And I was like, cool, we keep saying we're going to promote it through here. I'd like to do more than just share it, so let's do one. So like when he comes on that week, I'll probably have that up. He's coming on Wednesday. I'm going to probably drop it Friday.
Yeah.
But that's because I know Chris needs it promoted.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like if it's someone who like explains themselves, or it's like someone who's like, hey, can I get on your podcast sooner than later because I'm going overseas, like I'll move stuff around. But you also get that leisure because you just talk to me like a regular person. If you just start coming at me like, raw, I'm just going to be like, bro, sorry,
gonna work.
back of the line.
Yep.
Yeah. It's weird.
But it's all about establishing that rapport, and like you said, you're kind of giving a baseline.
Yeah.
This is how I operate.
But because of that conversation, it's taken away the stress of dumb text messages now because
Yeah.
I know how to answer them. Where before I was just mad and would complain to people when we'd go to the bar or say, oh, you know, this guy did all this, or this person or this girl, you know, wanted to come on, or I didn't, you know. When you take control of the situation and make it yours, it takes a lot of stress out. So now I don't really care about people bothering me like that, because immediately I'm just going to come back with like, hey man, these are my boundaries, stick to them.
Yep.
And if you don't like the boundaries, we're not going to work well together, so we might as well not get into this project. And that's like the most realistic way to approach it than like trying to be too mannerful like my mom would be.
Yeah.
Like my mom's got a bunch of like overly nice shit that is in me that is like worst best traits. Like, you know what I mean? And like sometimes you need to just cut that back a little bit.
Yeah, sometimes I'll bend over backwards just to be like amenable to somebody.
Yeah.
And my wife will go, why are you putting yourself out for this situation? And like sometimes you got to do it because
It's worth it
it's
too.
part of the job.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're like, you're right. I can put my phone down right now. I can get back to it tomorrow morning, and it's not the end of the world. No one's
Yeah.
it's
How
not life
long
or death.
did it take for you to break that late night habit of just constantly?
It's tough.
Yeah.
We go to bed early. We're usually in bed like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and my wife likes, at 9 o'clock, if she's in bed, phones aren't going off, and I have do not disturb mode on the phone.
I love that mode.
10 p.m.
You can't call me anymore.
to 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And I'll get a call or a text at like 9:30, and she's like, "Who's calling you right now?" And hey, business time.
Yeah.
You got to answer.
Yeah.
It's not 10 o'clock yet, but it's all about the balance. You know, it's making everybody happy.
And you just learn as you go. You're never gonna. Those moments where like I used to conduct too much business at night, and I'd be like, "It's never fucking ending." Now it's like I'm conscious of it, and it's not gonna happen every day because you know how it is. You're working 24/7, every goddamn second or minute. So there's always something going on where you can be like, oh, I could do this, I could do that. So the brain's not turning off, which is why you work for yourself. And that is how it is for me anyways. So then sometimes I'll be like, all right, cool. Like right now it's like 8 o'clock. I'll wrap this up in a little bit, and then like I'm not doing anything the rest of the night. But what I used to do is edit after this and then get into emails after this. And it's like you have to dial that back and set some sort of a precedent, or you're just going to be going. And then when I started doing that more, and like would be like, cool, I'll get a text and be like, that's something I don't need to answer right now. And then like you kind of like start relieving these like tethered things that you think that you need to just answer that person immediately, or they'll never want to work with you again. It's never the case. And they're like overly wanting to talk to you.
And part of being into it for a while gives you that confidence to say, I don't need it's on my terms. I'm going to do it now, or I'm going to do it later, because I know, like you said, tomorrow morning they're still going to be there.
Yes.
The world's not going to end because they can't get on the podcast next week.
No,
You'll
like they're not going to book somebody else to do furniture at 1 a.m.
Yeah, exactly.
No one else is taking the calls.
There's no stores open right now.
Yeah.
And I also I realize too that other people work odd hours with their job.
Yeah.
So if their best time to talk to me is 9 o'clock at night, I'll talk to you at 9 o'clock at night. But when 10 o'clock hits, the phone's done. We'll talk tomorrow. So it's all about that balance and being accessible but not too accessible, and trying to balance it for everybody.
It's cool because it comes with time, and then you don't realize that like what's worth getting to where you're going is learning more. So like you learn more every year, and then like now that I'm learning how to conduct business better, it's making my business better. And then it's like if I'm connecting on like how to talk to people or make myself more accessible, or like little things I want to do, like they may not seem like they're big deals, but when it makes life easier the following year because you're doing things a little bit better, you start really picking up momentum after a couple of years, and then another change comes. But like, that's the thing, is like, people don't even get to that point because they give up, because they don't want to put in the initial work. And like, yes, the initial work is way harder than everything else. And then when you get there, maintaining it's a lot of work, but you're also learning as you go to make your life and job easier. And that's what I'm realizing is what has made it worth it to me, is finding more freedom. And the more I find freedom, you can't put a price tag on that. And if I want to cut off to go do something on a day because I know I'm working all weekend, and I can take a Thursday and go hiking all day, and I know that all my shit's done and I can do that, and I don't got to ask anybody, that to me is worth weight in gold. If I can go onto a mountain and straighten my head up and come back and work 10 times harder. And then like, you don't just get handed shit. You got to earn it. And it's like, you got to earn the freedom of putting the work in. Then when you put the work in, you learn more in order to make your job easier. So then you can create easier avenues to make your life easier. So then you're just enjoying your work more. But that isn't something you get. It's something you earn after you've earned opening a business. And like, that's not easy at all to do, but it's so worth an inch of any of it when it swings that way. And then I get these little moments where I'm like, oh God, I remember, you know, I'd be, it's 8:00 now. I'd probably have a half hour, and then we'd be closing up, and I'd be working in a kitchen for somebody else, and then getting home by 9 if we didn't go out and drink all night because we hated our job.
Yep.
And then started over the next day because we couldn't find any employees, and we'd be working 12-hour days in a kitchen.
Yeah.
For somebody else.
Yep.
Making hundreds of dollars.
Yeah, making
hundreds.
Yep.
Hundreds.
Making somebody else
again.
rich.
Hundreds of dollars, not thousands. Hundreds.
Yeah. Yeah, I got my start. My first job was a busboy / dishwasher / prep cook at Widow Brown's, the old Widow's Tavern.
Yeah, doggy.
So I'm 15 years old. Sure, come on in, kid. You can do this. And I'd work a 12-hour shift on a Sunday at 15 years old and walk away with like $60.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Killing yourself.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You reach a point in your life and your career when you decide what's important and what's not.
Yeah.
And what's worth dealing with bullshit and what's not.
Yeah.
And I think now, 4 years into the business, I'm like you, I'm getting to that point where the job can wait, or this is a priority, or I think it's me time. Let me go do that.
Yeah, because I'm probably 3 or 4 into doing it solo. I don't remember when I quit the post office, but it was like right when things started working is when the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I guess I'm not doing all that side stuff that was bringing in money to pay the bills. No one wants to buy a website during the pandemic.
Yeah, but you gotta.
But I learned how to pivot.
right?
Yeah.
You got to pivot and shift
I changed
gears.
the entire business. The entire show went solo because of the pandemic, and then now I've gotten this show out of it that I'm going to end up running with, and then I'm going to have my second show with Scheibe called After Hours. But that works for him because he only comes down here at 8:30 at night. So now I got like a lounge show that I'm going to do with him where we can do whatever we want, and then now I got 2 shows out of it. Plus I tightened my business up, and we got into food because of the pandemic.
Yeah.
I don't know what would have happened if it would have just been the trajectory of what I thought this was going to be, which was me just kind of selling things that I was using to grow my business to other people and then just getting a piece of it. And I don't know if I would have just kept doing that and then like would have been making good money but not been fulfilled.
Yeah.
Or now it's like I've really hit some, scratched some itches that I don't think I would have hit anywhere else. It forced me to learn how to run this and how to do all this. And now I have like such a different confidence, and now that's worth money. And now people can pay me to do that.
And it seems like, at least from the outside, that with the food, you've really found you've taken what you love and kind of brought it into your daily life with these pop-ups.
Well, the food was crazy because I've always been in love with food, and I've always liked food, and it struck me early on because I'm sure, like, you know, when you build something or whatever, if you're in a good mood, it's going to go way better than. So, I mean, that affects cooking. So if you're in a shitty mood and you make someone dinner, then it's not going to be the same as if I put all my energy into it. So I've always loved food, and I got better and better over the years. And then I worked in an environment that I did not enjoy, and I stayed there too long, and I burned out on it, and then I hated it, and I stopped cooking altogether. And then I had Angelo on, and I met Local Stone, and they were doing pop-ups, and then that refueled it. And when it refueled it, I can't describe, it filled a part of me up that was missing. And then I thoroughly enjoy cooking, and it's something that I love doing, and I can't wait to do cooking shows, and I can't wait to serve people food. And it's a part of my life that I'm so glad that I went back to, that somebody else took away from me. And that was an important lesson, that you shouldn't let people take things and your passions and ruin them because they wanted to do something else with your passion. And you should follow out in a manner to do it on your own, because it's truly the only way it's going to work, because no one else is going to see what you want to do. And then when I started working in that avenue, that's when it really started kind of like developing, and then I got way more confidence, and then I just stopped giving a fuck and was like, this is how I make it. And I'm only making it this way because for the last 3 years, I've had 8 friends tell me every Saturday to fucking sell food. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then my buddy Dave bought me the grill, and then I couldn't not run the business because he spent money on the grill, which, just kidding, if his wife would ever listen to this.
Dave definitely did not buy the grill.
He brought me over to his house and just told me to come over for a beer. And then it was the first time I've ever cried, and almost cried in front of somebody when they gave me something. But it meant so much because I didn't have money at the time. Early on with this, there was no money coming in. So it was at a point where I needed extra money coming in. And Dave was like, yo, come by for a beer. And then when I got there, he's like, put this in your car before she gets here. And then I was like, what? And then he was like, just put this in your car. I picked this up for you. I don't want anything back from it. Start the burger business. And that's how it started.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
He doesn't want credit for it. He hates when I bring up the story. And I'll repay that someday tenfold. But and then when I got it, I started doing the pop-ups at Finishers because they needed food for the events. And then I learned how to do the pop-ups in the Finishers parking lot. And then we did the brewery run. And then, we learned the pop-up business and how it's not sustainable. And a lot of stuff depends on weather and somebody promoting it. And then the ride back, Gina was like, let's open a fucking business. And I was like, she did not say it like that at all. I did. But I was like, let's do it. I'm like, brick and mortar. I'm like, this town needs something. I've been here for forever. I said, my friends are here. I said, I want my friends to be able to get a cup of coffee in the morning. There's nowhere to go.
There's no good coffee shops.
There's no good coffee shops. Anyone who opens it up is selling somebody else's coffee out of a pot where, like, we're getting a roaster and, like, going to barista school and, like, and then I know how to handle a kitchen. So that's a huge plus because people open and they don't got somebody to run a kitchen. It's like somebody opening a furniture store and they don't got somebody to make the furniture. You're fucked.
Yeah. And and your location is amazing. I mean,
yeah. How funny is that? I said that to Torres last night. I go, I never expected to do anything. I mean, I've always said the town would break me and I would give up and I would just stay here and I would just do it here. And then the more that became funnier to me that I would do that and make people come out of the area to eat in Nazareth was always funny to me because it's not something that people do. So, like, once it kind of just kept going down, and Jay, like, my relationship with him, and I always defend him when anybody says anything about him, I consider him a friend. And early on, when I had nowhere to go, he set me up here, and then we would walk, and he would show me construction over there. And I walked that space, and I said, I want this. And he laughed, and he's like, well, you got to grow out your space, and I got to put apartments in here. And then when the time came, I was like, yo, let's roll back on that. And then I was doing all of everything I'm doing, and he watches and follows. And he's like, I'm in. Let's figure it out. That's pretty crazy.
That's awesome.
Like, I was talking to Torres, and I was like, who would have thought I'm going to take over half of a building in the middle of Nazareth and run a restaurant?
Yeah.
Like, Jay thought it was funny because when I first met him and I was like, we're going to do this, this, and this. And he laughed. And I go, what are you laughing at? And he goes, who would have thought you would have been the one to revitalize the town,
Yeah, exactly.
And I was like, no, I was always just a fucking idiot and drank too much and, got thrown out of Nazareth and got sent over to school. Like, I had a funny reputation, but it wasn't anything I don't think anyone took serious. So sometimes I look at it and I'm like, what the fuck, man? I'm sure it's like that with you sometimes when you like look at like the level you're on, man.
I'm sure people, in high school and college would have, if they could have painted my future, it wouldn't look the way it does now.
Yeah, but you probably never thought that you'd be doing this. You wanted to do it,
I
but
wanted
like,
to
it's
do it,
weird
but
doing it, right?
I would tell people, like, I was going to college and I'm like, I'm gonna build furniture when I get older. And my uncle was an entrepreneur, and he's probably one of the few people in my family that actually go, yeah, I could see you doing that.
Yeah. Those are
Everybody else is like, yeah, right.
Yep.
You're gonna
College.
Yeah, you're going to my parents. You're going to college.
It's weird because that generation, I talked to my brother about that, is they kind of pushed you to where they went because that's the only way they knew. Mm-hmm. So like my dad went to the war. He was obviously not telling us to do any of that. So because it came up, like, what if we did that? My dad was like, don't do it. So my mom was always like, school, nursing, electrical. Like Richard called me on the ride home. He's like, I don't know if that's what I should have done. And he's like, I just kind of went because mom was telling us we should go do electrical work because Henry John did that and like get into engineering. And he's just like, I don't think I did anything I wanted to do. And I was like, yeah. That's why I started doing this.
Yeah.
Like,
you don't want to reach that point in your life and realize that
Yeah.
I haven't been doing what makes me happy.
But it's way easier when you have no money coming in and you're working a bunch of crappy jobs. It's probably tougher. Like you had a career.
Yeah, I had a good career, made really excellent money.
Yeah, that's way harder
And
to
I go
do.
to my wife, hey,
I left the post office, but the post office isn't what they paint it, so it's not. I mean, they put it up there as like, you're working for the government.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's a nightmare. So, like, to leave that was a no-brainer, but, my brother's like, I can't leave my job, but I would like to show my kids that they can do anything they want.
Yep.
And they can open a business, and they can start a wood shop, and he's like, I don't want to raise them to think that they should go to college and work at a factory or work somewhere where you're just doing that every day.
Yeah, I think it's changing. This whole new generation is looking at things totally different. And with the cost of school, it's not attainable
That's
for
crazy.
everybody.
Can they even push school on people anymore?
I think it's becoming less and less, and actually the trades are slowly dying out. So there's a whole generation that either has to get on board with that, or I don't know what's going to happen. Because
it's so weird. So weird trades are dying out.
Yeah, which is crazy. And I'm on job sites semi-frequently, and the average age of the guys doing it are 40s and 50s probably.
Yeah.
So there needs to be a young group that'll eventually come in to fill those voids, and you make really good money in the trades.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. I push more people to do it. Kids that, people that I interact with, their kids are coming out of high school, and nothing wrong with being in the trades. You don't have to go to college anymore. You can be a carpenter, you can be a welder, you can make a lot of money doing those kinds of things, plumbing, electrical, all that stuff, as long as it's what you like.
Yeah.
I would hesitate to say go become an electrician just for the sake of making good money. But if you don't know what you want to do, what's wrong with having an electrical certification and
not
doing
at all.
it for a couple of years?
My little brother got into plumbing, and he had a stride with that, and then like got into the union, and like,
oh yeah.
Then I didn't realize how laid out that structure of schooling was, and he crushed that. And then like he got into the apprentice program and actually won like a apprentice of the year, and then went to states, and like, and then I didn't realize like all that hard work, he's now not being looked at to work the job, he's being looked at to run the job. And then I'm like, oh shit.
And that's big money.
None of that shit's ever explained to a kid. If no one ever explained what kind of money you make as a veterinarian. No one ever explained like you could start your own business. No one ever explained you can do anything. They just told you had to go to work and get a degree, and it was always a gray area on what you were supposed to do with it.
Yeah, I got done with college and I went to the administration office or whatever. I'm like, all right, I'm done with school. You guys are going to find me a job now, right? And they laughed.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
But they definitely promoted that they did.
I'm pretty sure when I signed up here, you guys told me that you
job
would help.
placement.
Job placement, right?
Job placement.
So I came out of school and then I had to go to I was a carpenter, doing handyman stuff and carpentry jobs and, whatever paid money. And then I went and I had to go to like an employment agency just to get
those are the
some
worst.
Of the initial gigs.
Yeah.
And you're working with some of the dregs of society in those places, unfortunately. And then I finally a career builder putting out applications after applications. I finally got a call back.
There's nothing worse than trying to find a job.
Yeah,
especially when you want a real one.
Yeah, I finally got my first real job. The guy's like, "I'll hire you, and I'm going to pay you $15 an hour." And I go, "$15 an hour? I'm college graduate. He goes, but you have no experience.
Yep.
So, well, how do I get experience?
I forgot that was the big fuck off of the college degrees. You'd come in and they'd tell you don't have experience. So you could get the job, but they're still going to pay you what the other place would pay you, except for you're working around other people that also went to college and got that, and then you're supposed to stay there for 50 years.
Yeah. And now the $15 an hour I started out with is minimum wage. So this is 15 years ago.
Yeah.
But like to think that people at McDonald's now are making $15 an hour, what I made, from 4 years of school working at my first legitimate job. So
I remember getting a raise
crazy.
at Martin Guitar, and it was 15 cents they gave me. Was my raise.
What is that? What is it for the year?
For the year.
What does that even do for you?
Nothing.
You're better off not.
Yep. So I'd be like, wait, what? And I was like, well, what was the max you were going to give me? And they're like, well, the potential was 75 cents. And we figured that
you were worth 15.
We gave you 15 cents. And then, and then obviously as you get older, you realize that money, there's probably a specific amount that you can give to the department, and they want to get paid more than everyone else. So if they keep giving everyone 15 cents, they can take the rest. And then, that's how factories work.
And what were executive bonuses that year, I wonder,
I did it. They did do the profit sharing. So
helps.
They did do that, which was a real thing. And I believe I was there at a time when it ran the way Chris Martin intended it to be. And then then after 9/11, they brought people in because nobody was buying guitars. And then that was when there was a real shift in like, hey, like you guys just can't come in late, or like you guys can't just like call off. Cause it was like a very big honor system, and it was like a family work environment where like if you called off, other people depended on you. So it was few and far between that, unless you would just get people that would call off all the time, then they would eventually lose their job. But for the most part, you went in there because you were working as an entire factory it wasn't, it was a different atmosphere than anywhere I've really worked, but then it was ruined by society and like people, and how all that kind of stuff gets ruined where, like they used to give you off if a school district you were in had off because they figured the roads were too bad to get there. But then there'd be like people who drive Jeeps, like, I can't
school
make
districts.
It in. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunately when you're in a big company like that, you make some rules that you think are going to benefit everybody. And there's always
it's like everything, man. It's how I ran this business in the beginning. I'll do it differently. I'll do it differently than everyone else. And then you get shafted, and then you're like, nope, I'll just start doing that. And then you're like, oh, all right. And then you don't realize that like why rules are put in place is because somebody ruined them.
Yep, exactly. And those companies that have been around for a long time have been established, and there's reasons they came up with those rules.
Coca-Cola, all this stuff where you work in the factory line.
I mean, it is nice that we have a place like Martin in town with the name and reputation that...
And you can get a job there.
Yeah. And they help guys out, and, they have an amazing product.
And they still do stuff like they did. I didn't realize they have like they did Martin on Main, which I always like going to, and that was actually done well this year. And then they did the Martin Music Fest. They have like a whole Plots area, which I didn't even realize. And then I was walking around, and it was like stuff that fits that vibe. Like there were some candles and guitars and shit like that. But it's cool that we have that in the area. It was cool working there. When I did, I feel like that was the time to work there. Like it was when the factory man was a factory man. It's not kind of what it is now.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like it used to be lucrative to find a factory job back in the day, and it was hard to get into the good places.
Exactly.
And my dad would kind of, would hear in the wind from other friends that worked in factories. He worked at printing press. So like, I never looked at that as like poor man's work. Like
no,
I was, you know what I mean? Like I was always I'll just work in a factory. And then that shifted. And then, it's like anything else. It just changes and rotates and comes back. But I liked working there. I still talk to a lot of people that I used to work there with. It was cool. Yeah. We get the profit sharing, and then there'd be like 2 weeks of shutdown. And we would just go out. We were in our 20s. We'd go to Atlantic City, take all that money, or go up to a strip club, just be gone. That's so dumb. But I mean, maybe it wasn't. I mean, I definitely don't have time to do stuff like that now. That's when you do it, is your 20s.
That's right. That's why the 20s are there, so you can have fun, so that when you're in your 30s and 40s, you can go, now it's time to...
And now, like being 42, like I talk to people in their 20s, and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, that was stupid.
Yeah.
Everything that like my dad ever said to me, I'm now saying to younger people, and I'm like, this is just too surreal.
Yeah, I find myself interacting with, if I'm at a party. I was at a high school graduation, and I'm telling these kids stuff, and I'm like, what am I saying right now?
Yep.
And this is all the same stuff that I didn't want to hear when I was their age.
care.
You got it all figured out when you're in your teens.
Yeah, we were. I was up in my buddy's kid turned 21, and just being around his friends, like they were all just like I forgot, like when you're in your 20s, like you think you know everything, and you think you got it figured out, and like they're just like hanging out and drinking and like talking to people about what their next moves are in life, and I'm like, you have no clue. You have no clue what's gonna hit you in the face, and it's gonna hurt.
That's what part of life. What life is. What's great about it, because you can have so many experiences throughout your life, and just like you and I did, you don't have to just fit one mold. If you want to reinvent yourself, if you want to change, you want to move on, it's there. The opportunities are there as long as you reach out and grab them.
Yeah, man. I really like just generally bullshitting like this. It's easier to do when people come back, but you can come on anytime you want to promote anything, or when it gets closer to opening, we can kind of go over the projects and stuff that you're going to have going on up there. And I'm excited to see the sign come through, but we knew each other, and then coming on the show, then we ran into each other, and at this point I consider us friends, but like we don't get to do this, so like it's fun. And anytime you ever want to come back, and especially in the new studio, and want to just bullshit and be like, hey, I want to grab a couple beers and just promote myself and go over some new projects, the door is always open. Like I said, it's so crazy what you've done since the last time you were on, and like we tried to do this a couple times, and I'm glad it took this long, because it's leaps and bounds with employees and the shop and the crazy stuff you're doing, and it just seems like you're so confident in what you do, and it shows in your work. But I want to give you a chance to let everybody know where to follow you if they don't follow you already. If you don't follow him, it is a good follow. I don't say that about everyone, but it'll probably turn into me doing that because I'll feel bad. But as of right now, I don't say that about everyone, and it's an enjoyable watch when he posts his stuff. So however you want to promote or anything, man, you have the floor.
All right. If you want to follow me, I'm oak.iron on Instagram. That's my main spot where I put out stories, and you can check out my feed to see all the stuff I've built in the past. That also translates to Oak and Iron Works on Facebook, and I'm at oakandironworks@gmail.com if you want to send me an email or hit me up. And it's also Oak and Iron Works is my website as well. So check out any of those places if you want to see what I have going on, all the cool projects that I'm working on. You can usually get daily updates and see the current projects in process and all the fun stuff I got going on.
Cool.
Thanks for having me on, Mike.
Of course, dude.
Always a pleasure.
Yeah, and I always love running into you, but then sitting down and doing this is it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is.
First time listener, first time watcher, it's neveragainstudio.com. Subscribe to the YouTube. You can find all of this on Spotify. It's YouTube, Spotify, iTunes. Those are the big ones, but you can literally put in Never Again Studio and anything at this point, and it'll pretty much be an RSS feed to the podcast you're looking for. You can stay on the website, and you can watch it on the website. You can listen to it on the website, and my merch is also available in my link tree on my Instagram. Follow that. That's where I post anything. You want to get a hold of me, hit me up on there. That's about it. Thank you, dude.
Thank you.
I'm going to get you out of here because it's 8:30.
All right. Have a good one.
Yeah, man.
Bye.
Never Again Radio. Get into it, brother.